On today's episode, we'll talk about painting the grass green, the problem with having new cases, sneakers, Field of Dreams, and of course, Steadicam with a bowling ball. Just a little bit of business before we start. There may be a curse word here or there in this episode, so please listen responsibly. As always, our website, theop.io, is up and chock full of tips, tricks, and GUI operator goodness. Make sure to check out The Breakdown, where the best operators in the biz explain shots they have done, The Musings, where we discuss everything from quick tips to larger concepts of storytelling, the answers, the images, and so much more. I may or I may not take a break or two during this episode, but I promise that none of them will be longer than 22 seconds. Finally, if you are enjoying the podcast, please follow us, write a review, share us with your parents, and talk us up around the water cooler with your friends. So grab a beverage, sit back, and enjoy the op. Thanks for listening.
Lock it up, nice and quiet, and let's roll.
Rolling. Victor 30 Echo, take 2.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark.
And camera set. And action.
Hello and welcome back to The Op, the podcast where we talk about operating and the art of visual storytelling. My name is Dave Comides and I'm your host, and we're here yet again from the Panavision Woodland Hills Theater because they are so gracious to allow us to use it. It sounds better than the shower in the guest bathroom. I have a really great guest here today, a friend and a fellow operator, Lawrence Doc Karman. Some of his credits, but not all of them: Mayor of Kingston, Your Honor, The Fugitive, A Quiet Place 2, Raising Hope, Little Miss Sunshine, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Old School, The Sum of All Fears, Sneakers, one of my personal favorite movies, and Field of Dreams, one of everybody's personal favorite movies, I think. And just because they're fun, he was an electrician on Earth Girls Are Easy, which I remember seeing and being hysterical, and also was a camera assistant on The Serpent and the Rainbow. Doc, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Why do they call you Doc?
You know, I was pre-med in college, and I've had friends out here from college who gave me that nickname, and Larry or Lawrence is my real name, and there seems to always be a Larry or a Lawrence on set, and
like a Dave. It's always a Dave.
Yeah. So I kind of carried that onto set, so I wouldn't be turning my head all the time and getting whiplash.
So you were pre-med in college and just thought, this isn't for me, or?
Well, you know, a nice Jewish boy, your parents always wanted you to go
That's
to
where at least you're supposed to go?
Yeah. And, you know, I almost did, but life took its course, and, you know, I had to stop. My mom got cancer, and I wound up moving back home. And
where's home?
At the time, New Jersey.
Okay.
I grew up in New York, and we wound up moving to Jersey. She passed, sadly, but I continued to live at home and went to work for my dad. He had a business in Jersey, in Paterson, New Jersey.
Paterson, okay. What did he do?
Beautiful spots of the Garden State.
What was the business?
He had a textile factory.
Oh, wow.
They made upholstery fabric.
So what'd you do for him?
You know, this and that.
Like office stuff and whatnot?
Yeah, some office stuff. Worked out on the mill, and,
right.
You know, he was sort of grooming me to take over that business, I guess, someday. But, you know, I never wanted it. It wasn't for me. And that sort of led me to get into the film business, and that I just couldn't take it anymore. So
how'd you, but the film industry business clearly wasn't on your horizon when you were in school.
Never. I'd always done a lot of still photography. I was, you know, the school paper still photographer, and continued that in my college days. And I just one day opened up the New York Times, answered an ad for a production assistant job.
No way, like just in the wanted ads?
Yeah.
Did you know what a production assistant job?
No, I had no idea, but I said, you know, I'm going to try something I've always thought I might like. And, you know, I was inspired by watching movies. You know, it was always a thing for me, and I think I had just seen, like, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or maybe The Last Waltz, or, you know, those are the sort of things that really inspired me, and I thought, you know, I got to get into this.
So what was the movie that you?
It was some TNA,
some horrible
movie, you know, like Swinging Cheerleaders or something like that. You know, the worst. Right?
Yeah. And you were like an on-set PA, or
No,
what?
no, it didn't even get that far. But the guy who was going to direct it happened to have his own little studio. He had a ton of cameras, 16 BLs, 35. I think he had a 35 BL or an Arri 2C,
Yeah.
and then in a blimp. I don't know if you ever seen this giant
Vaguely, yeah.
sound blimp that they would
Massive,
put that in.
yeah.
And he had, moviolas and a Steenbeck table.
So
for
he's like a full
editing.
production company. Yeah.
Full production company,
Yeah.
but he used to do dirty movies. That was his thing, and he tried to go legitimate with this.
Didn't work.
With this R-rated movie.
All right.
It never got made.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But I kind of glommed onto this equipment, and in my time there, sort of taught myself how to load and how to.
I know why.
I
So
played with it.
were you working on like things that he was doing, or you just went in?
Not at the time. I kind of went off and started. I started doing commercials in New York. I as a loader, as a second AC. I
So
got a
non-union stuff. I'm
non-union
assuming.
stuff. I got
yeah.
a few jobs that way.
And how did you meet people? How'd you find people to work with?
Just kind of through the people who were working on that
Yeah.
job. It all stems from the pyramid of the few people you meet. And
That's the truth. It's like
really
someone
the
goes,
truth
"Hey,
of-
I need someone," and they go, "Oh, I wonder if he's available," and then that's the way it
right.
works,
And
right?
maybe there were want ads at the time.
Yeah.
For freebies, and then the same thing exists today, right?
Yeah. So you were loading and seconding on commercials, or
Yeah,
on
on commercials exclusively. And then I think I did a short film in New York called, maybe Dracula Bites the Big Apple. I think it was
A classic.
called. Yeah, which was, Dracula comes over from the old country and
Sure. And wreaks havoc in New York.
wreaks havoc. It was a
Yeah.
comedy, He
Yeah.
winds up going to Studio 54, and he's in
Oh,
line.
okay.
They don't let him in. They go, "We got enough Draculas in
Yeah,
here
yeah,
tonight,"
right. Oh, that's great.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. But even those guys wound up coming to L.A. and wound up directing movies.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so
So how long did you stay in New York for?
I
Before you came
I
out to LA?
tried that for about a year, and again I was living at home and
Yeah.
getting dirty looks from my dad.
Why aren't you going into the textile business?
Educated bum sitting
Yeah.
at home. So I kind of packed up and moved out to L.A. and.
Just on a basis. Did you know anybody out here? or
I
you
had
just
a
come out?
very good friend in L.A. who I knew from college, and
Okay.
and went and lived with him.
Yeah.
And literally my first day here, I think I was at the beach with him, and a guy came up to us bumming a cigarette, and it turned out to be an actor who was going to be in that TNA movie in New York. And
Oh, no
said-
way.
Yeah,
Wow.
and he said, that the guy who was going to shoot that movie is out here doing something. Give him a call, and next thing you know, I'm driving a grip truck up to San Francisco
No way.
to do some short.
So you just moved here and you basically stumbled into a
I
job.
stumbled into a job.
So so you're driving the grip truck, and then are you also you just driving, or you're gripping, or
No,
or-
I became the still photographer and second AC on this.
You remember the name of the movie?
This thing. No, I
Okay.
can't.
Another classic, basically.
Another classic, yeah. And then that cameraman became, semi-successful in the non-union world first, and
Yeah.
wound up doing Chuck Norris movies.
Oh, wow.
And took me along for the ride.
And what were you doing? I mean, you weren't. You
I
weren't
became kind of a first AC.
a
for
first
him,
AC.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so, how long did you pull focus for?
I want to say about 8 years or 10 years.
All right.
There was,
Now, tell me if I remember this right. You were pulling focus on The Serpent and the Rainbow,
yeah.
which John Lindley shot. And
Yeah. So I guess the short story is, that cameraman I mentioned earlier was doing a movie of the week, and he got fired. And I guess we were all going to walk off. 'Cause
You were pulling focus for
I was
him.
pulling focus,
Okay.
yeah. And, in support of him, we were going to quit.
Yeah.
And John Lindley was his replacement.
Ah, okay.
They brought him in, and rather than just walk off the job, we figured we'd get our friends jobs. People we knew, we might as well put them into the
Sure,
job because
yeah.
John didn't have anybody.
Fill the
He was
gap.
from New York.
I got you.
And,
Okay.
So we finished the week. We slipped our friends into the job. And
Yeah.
Cut to a year later when John had a movie. He called me up and said, "Hey, I got this feature, and I remember you guys just didn't leave me hanging, and I want to."
Oh, that's cool.
And
So it paid back.
it paid back.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
hired me, and cut to
Yeah. Still working with him
30
today.
years later, and yeah.
So, but either you or he told me a story on Serpent and the Rainbow about them not paying the extras, and there being, this was in Haiti, right? And there being like a revolt and something or other. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, this is a sad but true story. So we were shooting a big scene, a magic hour funeral procession, I think it was,
Yeah.
or some kind of procession at a castle deep in the heart of the country in Haiti. Right,
Yeah.
it was about an hour and a half drive, into the countryside, and it was an old fort, I think, right? And they had 2,000 Haitian extras
Wow.
hired, right?
Wow.
And these are just, farmers
Sure.
and people from the village that they
Just
got.
trying to make a buck. Yeah.
Trying to make a buck. And they were trying to make $5 because
Yeah.
that was the going rate.
Literally $5.
$5 a day. Yeah, that was the rate.
This is when, 1980?
No,
85 or 86 or something?
86 or,
Okay.
yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Wow.
And they were happy to have the job, but stupidly, production brings them in the morning. Can't remember 8 or 9 or 10, and we had other things to shoot. We
so
weren't going
before
to
they're
shoot that
needed.
till 5 or 6 in the evening, right? So come 4 in the afternoon, they're like, "Okay, we're going home," because
Well, having not shot it.
having not shot
Because
it,
you didn't
and
get
they
to
said
it,
you
I see.
can't leave,
Yeah.
So they agreed to double their pay to $10 a day each.
Good Lord.
And sure enough, we do the shot, and it's amazing thing. I think we had 4 or 5 cameras placed strategically around the thing, and we had done that before with John. The first scene we shot was 5 cameras at magic hour, strategically placed around the slums. Anyway, we get the shot. The next day, we needed maybe another 1,000 people. So they said, "We'll pay you tomorrow. Come back and bring your friends." And,
Yeah.
And when they came back, they reneged on the $10 a day.
Oh, my gosh. You got to
thing.
be kidding me.
Yeah, and only wanted to pay them $5. And these people were very, very angry about
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
And I spoke a little bit of French, and I understood them. That they said, "We're going to smash the cameras." We
Oh,
want
jeez.
our money. And I had some guys that I paid out of my pocket just to help me carry cases around. And I gave them $15 a day.
Just extra help for the camera department.
Extra help for the
because
camera,
production wasn't
we
giving you
didn't
what you
have a lot
needed.
of people there, yeah.
Yeah.
And they came to me and said, "Monsieur, very dangerous."
They let you know.
They let
yeah,
us know
yeah,
that there
yeah.
was trouble. So I picked up my front box off the camera and went down to the camera truck, and John Lindley was the cameraman. He's in the truck already.
Oh, jeez.
And my second was down there, and we just hid in the truck. And then
Wow.
eventually someone from production came and said, "Listen, we want you to go into that church over there and don't come out. We've called
you
in-
guys?
To us. We've called the Army,
Oh, my gosh.
and they're going to come and protect us." I don't know. So anyway, this went on for hours. And
Wow. All over $5, $5 difference.
Well, yeah,
because-
over $10,000, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but they agreed to it. So regardless of how much it is, it's incredible.
yeah. So eventually they relented and agreed to pay them, and that was that. But then the next day we were supposed to shoot at these caves. That was also a 2-hour drive
Yeah.
into the heart of the country. And John said, "No way."
Yeah.
He says that they'll kill us, so I'm not going in there.
Yeah, right?
Right.
Smart move.
So then the production said, "All right, we're going to go to the Dominican Republic, where our reputation is not so good here."
I gotcha.
So we said, "We're going to charter a flight, just pack up the things we need to shoot tomorrow, and we'll drive the camera truck over the mountain to
Yeah.
meet us in a day or two."
Yeah.
So we pulled camera, a box of lenses, some sticks, and a head, and
Wild.
And went to the airport and waited. And then we're waiting for a charter. This is one of the most absurd days, and we're like literally sitting on the tarmac with a camera. They can't just let us shoot. I mean, not shoot.
Yeah.
So he said, shoot some inserts while you're waiting.
At the airport.
At the airport, not just at the airport, but literally on
the tarmac.
On the tarmac, and planes are 60 feet away taxiing, and we're here shooting. A guy in a coffin getting needles poked into his eyes. And
Because it was a voodoo. It was a voodoo. Movie.
Thing, yeah.
Wow, that's wild. It's the reason I asked was just it shows you how crazy this business can be sometimes.
Yeah, it's just nuts.
And I think we all sort of like. We all think of when things go well, but a lot of times they don't, and they're completely out of our control. That's crazy.
But I mean, that's sort of one reason you love it too, right? Because
it's the wild ride, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and you get to do stuff like, again, look, you're getting paid to go to Haiti and shoot this movie about voodoo. It's not many other businesses have something like that.
Right. I mean, you get to meet the real people in these places. When you go as a tourist, you don't get to meet the locals and learn the culture. And
I think one of the coolest things I've been able to do, even though it's relatively low key and sort of was at the time, I worked on a movie of the week back when movie of the weeks existed, or a Lifetime movie or something like that, about Apollo 11, and we got to shoot in the mission control that sent Apollo 11 to the moon, like all those desks that you see in those old pictures and whatever, and it was defunct. Mission control was now in another part of the building, and it was basically, I remember we asked them to take us to see it, and they go, yeah, we guess, and I remember thinking like, why don't you think this is cool? And then of course we got there, and it was like a bunch of desks with like computers on them, and it was just like, now downstairs is much cooler because it looks like all those old pictures. Right. But yeah, it's that cool stuff that you get to do. Yeah. So how long did you pull focus for?
Yeah, like I want to say about 8 years.
And then did you get into Steadicam right out, like straight from there?
No, along the way I got to operate the extra cameras and occasionally shoot something on my own. But officially, I think I bumped up on Sneakers. John moved me up on that movie to a camera on that.
Was that a great movie to work on?
Oh yeah, I mean
that movie. That's like one of the unsung movies that I don't think a lot of people know about it. It's such a great movie. Phil Alden Robinson
directed it. I had done 3 pictures with Phil before that.
Oh, what other movies?
Or 2 pictures before. I assisted on a movie called The Woo Woo Kid.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Originally called The Woo Woo Kid. It was called In the Mood. Patrick Dempsey.
Oh, I sort of remember.
Started
it,
when he was 16, I think.
Yeah.
And Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams was prior to Sneakers. Okay. Well, actually, let's back up. So you were pulling focus on Field of Dreams then?
I was pulling focus, and then I got sent off to shoot all kinds of second unit stuff.
When you were shooting that movie, did it seem like it was going to be what it was? That it was going to be a good movie?
You never know that.
No, I know, but that's why I ask.
No.
Sometimes you get it right.
No, you never really know. I mean,
because the thing is that movie to me, I love that movie, but it borders the line of being too sort of sentimental, whatever you want to call it. And
totally.
So I wonder when you're shooting it, do you just go, this is just going to be a horrible, this isn't going to work.
Never thought that for a second. Look, until you see it all cut together, right?
Absolutely.
You never really have a sense of the timing and the you never know what they're going to cut out too, right?
Yeah.
But I guess I know when a movie's going to be really bad.
More
but
often
I don't
than
never
not,
know
you,
when
you
it's
call
going to
that
be
right.
really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Although every once in a while you go, this is going to be bad, and it actually works, but it doesn't happen that often because they're usually so bad. So that was it in Iowa?
Oh yeah, we were in Dubuque, Iowa.
And did they actually found a field and built the baseball diamond?
Yeah, they rented this guy's farm. This house. It was a real house on a farm. They kind of fixed it up quite a bit
and mowed down his corn.
Well, we grew it. There was no corn. It was that time of year when they first got there.
Oh, really?
And the ball field actually spanned 2 different farms.
Okay.
I think left field was on one farm, and most of the ball field was on the main property. But yeah, that's a great story. So they planted corn. There was very little rainfall that year.
Oh, jeez.
We were in a drought.
Yeah.
So we actually had to sort of wait for the corn to grow. And Brian Frankish was the production manager. He kind of smartly took out insurance.
Against the corn?
Against the corn, yeah. That it had to be a certain height by a certain date, and if it wasn't, they collect on the insurance. And
wow, that's an interesting
so
call
we
to
were
an
convinced that
insurance
Brian was
company.
out there sort of pulling the stakes up a little bit every day, But you couldn't just water it either because humidity was a factor. And,
because you get mold and stuff like
no,
that.
it needed
or whatever,
that to
who
grow.
knows?
It, not
Yeah.
just water, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was having a drought that year.
Oh, jeez.
And it just wasn't happening. So we wound up taking, about 4 or 5 days off in the middle of it to wait for the corn to grow.
Wow. It grows that fast, really?
Well, when it did, it
Yeah.
grew too fast. So,
Really?
yeah. When we came back and started shooting, we wound up having to put.
Oh, literally, like continuity problems. It grew
Yeah,
so-
I mean, it was
Wow.
just too tall. Suddenly we couldn't see Kevin in the corn. We had to put apple boxes and planks down between the rows.
These are the things you don't
to
think
see 'em.
about when you're making a movie about corn. That's amazing. Did you guys play? Did you get to play baseball on the field?
Plenty.
Like-
Well, first of all, the field was, sacrosanct, right? So
You couldn't mess with it.
they had this thing. They printed up this sheet. I think I still have it, and if John comes in, you should ask him about it.
I will.
It was going to be the most perfect ball field
Yeah,
you could
right.
imagine, right? And they had this guy, they called him Dr. Saad, who came in with this
Dr. Saad.
this list of rules about the grass. This is the guy who maybe did the field for USC or for the Rose Bowl or something.
So they got like the best sod guy in the business.
Some
or
professional,
whatever.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
grass has to sleep. No light on it at night. Like, we're shooting a movie. How can we're
Oh,
at
my
night. How are we going to
God.
not have light on it, right? And then, anything you put on the grass, it has, a piece of plywood has to be moved every 10 minutes.
So it
and
doesn't kill it or whatever.
kill it. And,
Oh, my gosh.
cable hangers had to be made so that the cable couldn't touch
Was
the
he
grass.
there at all
and-
times, sort of going, "You got to pick that up"? Was he the policeman?
No, after one day, all that went out the window
That's
because, we had a lumicrane the whole time.
Which was not normal back then to have.
No, that was very extravagant
Yeah,
at the time.
okay.
And the idea was that we would reach out over the grass and never have to actually
Oh, I see.
stand
So the
on
base was off
it with
on the
cameras.
side.
But as you know or don't know, the lumicrane was one of the earliest, camera cranes
Yeah.
with a remote head on the end of it. And I can't recall how long, maybe 20 feet was the maximum length of it. It wasn't very long.
So it was
right?
never long enough.
Never long
Yeah.
enough. And it came with the assorted issues of very bad black and white video taps at the time.
Yeah.
You couldn't see, especially at dusk, and
Yeah.
and came with fuzzy, the
Oh, Fuzzy was
Rest in peace.
the crane operator.
crane operator.
I-
And,
I-
anyway, we wound up not
Yeah.
using it very much, and we were marching all over the
Before no
field.
time.
And there was a guy, Gilbert was his name. I remember the onset dresser. He had a big tank of green paint strapped to his back, and he would just go out and
Spray the.
paint the grass from all the damage that we caused
That's
it.
crazy.
But what was the original
Oh,
question?
I was asking if you got to play
Oh, we
ball
got
on the
so,
field.
so yes, of course we got.
They
to
let
play.
you out there to play?
Yeah, I think so. For sure. We may even come in. We might have even come in on the weekends and played.
I was gonna
Kevin
say.
liked to play ball,
Yeah.
so we'd all get together and play.
That's
so.
great.
Or maybe we'd play somewhere else. I don't remember.
What a
But we
great-
had a team going. We made up
No way.
baseball shirts.
Oh, that's
and-
fantastic. So it was a good movie to work on.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crew that we had all worked together before. The
Yeah.
the key grip, Tim Pershing, and had worked with John before, and the gaffer Pat Radish had worked with John before,
That's
and his
great.
crew. So we'd all done movies together.
That's
so.
always great when you get to go to a location like that where everybody's sort of stuck and you
Yeah.
all just sort of have something to do like
Yeah,
that.
a lot of bonding. We had a bowling team going. And, there wasn't
That's
a lot
great.
to do in Dubuque.
That's
but,
the best. Look, that's the best part of this business is like this, that kind of stuff. As an assistant working with the Lumicrane back then, was that hair raising because it was relatively new technology? Like, did it work all the time, or was it always needing to be tweaked and fixed and whatever?
Again, we sort of kicked it to the side.
You did,
after
okay.
A couple
All right,
days.
gotcha.
Yeah, so
it wasn't quite
But
right.
no, certainly it was a great piece of equipment. At the time, it was cutting edge.
Yeah, no, it was definitely cutting edge. Just being new technology and like nothing else like that. I was wondering.
But and literally, it was among. I think the FITSAC it was called. It was a Panavision remote focus system. It might have been among the first, other than the sights.
Yeah, that was a wired system, I think, right? The FITSAC?
I think
it
it
had
was
a cable.
hardwired. Yeah,
it was hardwired. Yeah,
Right.
And you could do like speed changes and stuff with it, as I remember.
Yeah, you could do all that.
Wow,
But, that was new. But otherwise, everything was pulled off the knob on that show, and we were on the end of a Titan crane. We had a Titan crane the whole time too.
Okay.
With an extension on it, and I remember we were doing shots swinging into Kevin Costner on the field as he hears the voice. You will.
Oh yeah,
it,
those great
right?
shots. Yeah.
And I am hanging off the end of that crane with 3 whip extensions into the.
So
the
the
handle. We didn't have
putting
remote
you
focus,
far away from it. You're saying so.
Well, just to reach the camera because I didn't think you could.
You're saying because you weren't riding the crane.
No, I was riding
you were.
it, but because the camera was hanging down underneath
I
the
see.
crane.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I couldn't get my hand to the knob,
Yeah.
so I had 3 or
those are the
4 of
crazy
these
things
whips ganged together.
Who
And
was the operator on
John
that?
was operating.
Oh, John was operating
I think.
himself?
Well, John or Ken Ferris,
Okay.
but I believe John was operating those
Yeah.
shots.
Gotcha.
yeah.
Wow.
So the 2 of us were hanging off that thing. And
Those are the crazy things we
swinging
used
in
to
at Kevin. At one point, we were swinging in at him, and our dolly grip, Tracy, was at the back end, and he tripped and fell and lost the crane.
Tracy, oh my gosh. And
it
let
was-
go of the crane, you mean?
He let go of
Yeah.
it, and it was going right at Kevin's head, and
Oh,
and you
Jesus.
just hear this scream, "Duck!" from the back of the crane, and
Oh, my
And
gosh.
Kevin, at the last second, hit the ground, and
Well, because as the actor, you're assuming until you hear something that
it's going to
everybody's
stop.
in control,
yeah.
right?
But this is,
You've got
4,000
momentum.
pounds
yeah,
coming at his
exactly.
head. It would-
Good Lord.
So-
God. That's kind of crazy. Sneakers.
Sneakers, yeah.
Sneakers is one of those movies that like so many people have never seen, and it's such a great movie.
Yeah, I was so fortunate to get to work with those actors.
And that was your first time as an operator?
Well,
Or full show?
full show as a camera operator, yeah.
That's quite the cast to be working with.
I'm so fortunate. Sidney Poitier,
Oh.
the such a gentleman, and Robert Redford. And
Yeah. It just goes on. Ben Kingsley.
River Phoenix,
and
Ben Kingsley,
River Phoenix,
Sir
yeah.
Ben Kingsley.
Yeah.
Come on.
What was he like to work with?
Gandhi, come on.
Was he? I mean, is he a down to earth guy though?
Oh yeah,
Like, he just-
absolutely. They're all great.
That's it's such a fantastic movie, and there's so much. I mean, we talked about it a little bit about it before. There's that one scene in there. I mean, there's tons of scenes that are great in there, but there's that one scene in there in the. I think it's in a police department interrogation where they're interrogating Robert Redford, and it's just this series of dolly moves, and it's all one shot, and it's just there's coverage and there's overs and there's singles, but because of the blocking, it's just an incredible thing.
Yeah, it's about a 2 or
3 minutes.
2 or
right?
3 minute oneer. Yeah, Phil, the director, was very sort of excited about doing a shot like that. He had, he kind of planned the day. He said, "I just want to do this one scene in one shot."
Yeah.
That's all we were going to do that day.
Oh, the whole day. Wow.
And he pulled out his laptop and he showed us the opening shot of what is that, Orson Welles?
Touch of Evil?
Touch of Evil,
Yeah,
that
sure.
movie.
Oh, okay.
And just to sort of get us all excited.
Yeah, it's like it's this huge, that's like a crane shot. So it's,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, that was on
massive,
the end of
but
a
yeah,
crane,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, that's great. I love it to sort of set the table of this
Set
is
the
what we're trying to
tables.
do.
So generally on that show, we would be waiting for Mr. Redford to show up on set in the
Okay.
morning. He had his exercise routine or whatever, and WOB, we called it, waiting on Bob. And So, we had a good amount of time to kind of figure some things out. And then, the usual thing, when the actors show up, you clear the set out, and director, DP, and sometimes me,
Yep.
got them there and watched and worked it out. And Phil kind of wanted a scene where people came into the frame, left the frame, just kind of a playful thing. But, this is a scene where two guys are trying to they tell him that they know his past. He's been running from his past all this time, hiding who he really is. And these are NSA agents, and they know who he is. And they're trying to get him to do something he doesn't want to do. So, and they've got him kind of cornered.
Mm-hmm.
And he wants to express that visually. And, the camera circles around. He goes in, he goes out, and Bob winds up sitting at the desk at the end of it, and these two guys
They're
kind of
towering over him.
tower over him on either side, and their arms kind of cross like
Yeah.
the bars of a jail cell.
Yeah, it's such a
yeah.
well designed scene. I'll actually link to it in the on the website for people to see it. But
Right.
what a cool thing to be a part of. I'll tell you, it's not a shot, but my favorite moment in that whole movie is at the end when I guess the FBI agent looks at River Phoenix and he goes, "You can have anything you want in the world, and all you want is her number." And he goes, "Yeah." And then it cuts to the shot of the agent, and she just has this look on her face that she's so enamored of that. It's such a great moment.
Yeah.
Sidney Poitier.
The whole ending of that movie
Yeah.
is interesting. We shot a whole different ending
Really?
in San Francisco, yeah. And I think we spent 2 days shooting it, and that just got thrown out. And then the movie ends now on a little TV screen.
Yeah. Of saying all these donations have been
Yeah, I
made to
don't wanna
whatever.
reveal
Oh, so you're
it,
saying that originally that wasn't there, and there was something else after all that.
That wasn't there. There was a different
There's a different
ending. It was just replaced with that, which was brilliant.
I was going to say, but so it was a good idea. You're saying the other ending wasn't worth what that did.
Yeah.
Because the payoff of that I won't say anything for people. Who haven't,
I mean,
but the payoff of that final moment is sort of like it's.
Yeah, that's the simplest shot of a TV screen.
But it's also, by the way, it's such an exceptional way to end that movie because it literally ties everything up in a bow, but in a very sort of not the way it's not I don't know what it is. It's not in a contrite way. It's a very interesting way to finish that movie.
Yeah,
and,
that's
movie.
That's
It's great.
the genius of
How was Sidney
Phil
Poitier?
Alden Robinson.
How was Sidney Poitier to work with?
I'm telling you, the nicest man in the world.
Really?
Just a gentleman.
Do you talk like that all the time?
Yes.
I think I remember hearing that he learned how to speak English by listening to the BBC or something like that.
Yeah, I can't recall what it was. I read something similar
And
to
that's why his sort of diction is the way that it
Yeah.
is. But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. My daughter was born during that movie. So.
Oh, there you go. So that's got a special
And
place.
I have such a nice
Where'd you shoot it?
note from him.
You shot it here?
Yeah, we
In LA?
spent maybe a week or two in San Francisco, and then the rest was
Otherwise, LA.
shot here. And
That's cool.
I think I can't recall if it was on that movie, but I was on a movie in San Francisco. This is kind of a funny story, and we were on a camera car driving down Embarcadero or something like that, and at the time there were no Titan cranes in San Francisco.
Okay.
And we had a scene that night to shoot on a fire escape, and we didn't have a crane or something. And I remember, I think it was John Lindley and the director were talking, and going, "How are we going to shoot that scene tonight? Boy, if only we had a crane." And just at that moment, a Titan crane drove by, just past us going the other way. and I remember saying, to the first AD, I go, "Send the motorcycle cop after that.
Yeah.
Pull him over and, offer him a couple
Yeah.
$100 to come and
Yeah, right.
do our shot tonight." Sure enough, they sent a guy after him.
You
He
mean
was
like
the-
it had finished this film somewhere and
he was
going
there to
back
do a Clint Eastwood movie or something like that. And sure, he took the money and he came
Of course
and,
he did.
our thing that
That's
night.
hysterical.
So,
Oh, that's great. I love that. That's fantastic.
but yeah, I digress. We shot there and in L.A. Scenes downtown at Universal Studios. We had a couple stages there and Simi Valley.
Yeah. Well, so that was the first movie. I mean, that's a big movie. I mean, well, it wasn't a big movie at the time. I mean, you didn't know what it was going to be, but that's a big cast to move up to A camera on. Was that a mental jump for you? Was that a tough like job to step in on as the A camera operator?
No, just another day.
Just another day. Do you remember making the jump from assistant to operator? Whether was that a mental?
It was more of a gradual thing.
Yeah.
I had done. It's not like I just stepped off the knob into the wheels.
So you'd done enough like B camera and splinter unit and this and that and the other. You felt comfortable. Yeah. And so when did you get into? Were you into Steadicam at that point, or had you started Steadicam?
No, absolutely not.
When did you get into Steadicam?
I want to say, 98 is when I first started. So
okay.
I probably was an operator for 8 years before I started even doing Steadicam.
And was the reasoning mostly just it's a tool that makes me more eligible for jobs because it was becoming a thing?
Exactly. As I started, look, Steadicam was always, we have a shot. We need a guy for one day.
Yeah, this mysterious guy comes in and does
a guy
a shot
comes
and
in,
leaves.
does one shot. He's on the truck sleeping until we need him.
Right.
Activate that guy and bring him out and do his thing. Right. That started to change in the late '90s, I'd say. Probably because of you, doing ER and things like that, where it became more of this everyday sort of
This
tool.
is something you do all the time. It's not just a specialty. Well, it is still, but yeah, exactly.
And anyway, I started losing jobs, and
because they would go, "Oh, you don't do Steadicam. We want someone who does Steadicam."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I saw where the trend was going, and it was something I never really wanted to do. But I had worked a lot with Jimmy Muro.
Oh, okay. What'd you work with him on?
Well, he came in on Field of Dreams. He was our
I didn't know
our
that.
Steadicam guy.
That's cool.
For the one or two shots that we.
He must have just been starting out when he was on Field of Dreams.
Yeah, I mean, he was, 10 years old, I think.
That's great. That's pretty cool.
Came out,
So you had an understanding of the equipment because you work with people enough, obviously. As a first.
I assisted Jimmy on Terminator 2 for.
Oh, I didn't know that.
For a bit, for a couple of weeks. I was his assistant on a movie called Oscar before that.
Okay.
Where else? Predator 2, I think.
A bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And so did you take?
Then I put the rig on at lunch or whatever. And get some training tips from Jimmy. And he said, he always was great. He said, "You're a natural at this." And anyway.
So where you took a course out here? Or
I
what?
took the course, the cinema products course at the time with Garrett.
Oh, really?
And
who else were the instructors?
A guy you might know, Charles Pappert.
Yes, Charles Pappert. Oh, he was one of your instructors. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Who else was? I can't remember. Oh, from Texas.
I know who you're talking about, and I can't think of his name.
His brother's an actor.
Is David?
David, yeah.
I can't think of his last name, but
nice guy.
Yeah. So around '98 you got in, and did that sort of get you back into the A camera slot on stuff because now you're a Steadicam operator?
I mean, yes, absolutely. I don't know how to answer that, really. I mean, the jobs just sort of come. It pushed me more towards Steadicam-centric jobs.
Sure. Yeah.
I think.
Do you think that becoming as someone who was a camera operator, conventional camera operator, who became a Steadicam operator, did the way that you operate change at all as a conventional operator as a result of like having, being able to move around with the rig?
Oh, absolutely. It's a tool, right?
Yeah.
It's whatever's the best tool for the shot. That's how I look at things, whether it's a crane or a fluid head, a gear head, or a Steadicam or a dolly. Unfortunately, it's not always up to me.
No,
right?
that's true. And as you know, and I've done it too, there's times where you're like, why are we doing this on this? Because of time or because someone paid for you and didn't use you and now has to use you or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. You told me a great story about Sum of All Fears and sort of accidentally getting a shot that ended up in the movie. Can you share that?
Well, yeah, sure. So I shot this opening sequence for the film. It's a shot of an atomic bomb being loaded onto an Israeli fighter jet during the '67 war, I think. So it comes out of a missile warehouse, I guess, and gets strapped onto a plane or a jet, and I had a couple days to figure out how to shoot this thing or how to physically get the bomb from the warehouse onto the plane, I guess, which was on Steadicam, and then they had to do a shot of the jet taking off. They left me behind and said, "We tried to get this a few weeks ago, but the Air Force wouldn't let us shoot it because they felt the camera was too close to the jet and the jet blast would be dangerous."
Oh, okay. So they left you and do it
And they said,
farther
"So
back
we're
this
going to
time."
give you a grip. He's
Yeah.
going to build you a bomb shelter,
jeez.
essentially, and
Okay.
and you have a really long lens. I can't remember. It was probably an anamorphic. I want to say an 800 millimeter or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was a magic hour shot, and then get at the end of the runway and get as close as you can, and
Yeah.
as close as they'll let you, and shoot this thing.
Yeah.
So I think we did the shot. I think it let us do it once or twice. I can't remember. And at the same, after I did it, I look over and the sun is about to set, and there's this giant ball
Like right on the horizon.
on the horizon, and I thought,
The classic sunset shot.
sunset shot.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm going to shoot it. This is great looking. And,
Yeah.
I had the long lens, perfect
Yeah.
thing for it. And I shot it. And I go to see the movie, and sure enough, they used the shot, and they used it as a transition from the front of the bomb, which is a big circle,
Oh.
to the circle of the sun,
Yep.
to a perfect dissolve to the back of the jet engine, and the flames coming out of that as it takes off. And I was just so gratified to know that they actually used some silly shot that I did.
Yeah, that's great. To take the initiative to go, this is too good to pass up on, basically.
Yeah, and the lesson there is just, we're all cinematographers, whether we're operators or assistants, and if you see some great image, shoot it. Why not?
Keep your eyes open, especially now that it's on digital, even more so than
now.
on
It
a
doesn't
film,
cost
but
anything.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely. So, as an operator, you've worked with a lot of big actors. We already talked about Sneakers and Field of Dreams or whatever.
Yeah.
You have any suggestions for people about working with actors? Anything that any things, what to do, what not to do, how to get an actor who's some actors are tougher to work with. How to work with them when it's not the easiest situation.
Yeah, they're all obviously different. I just worked with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Just earlier this year.
Is he a method actor? I'm assuming he is.
Very much so.
Yeah. So in other words,
I didn't say one word.
He's
so.
100% in character all the time.
Seemed to be. I just didn't go there.
So did you basically then just go through the director of something? If something,
in what I was doing on this movie, it was Joker. I didn't need to interact with him.
Okay, gotcha.
So I just didn't even
Yeah.
bother. But you could tell that you didn't need to talk to him.
Yeah.
Even Colin was the A operator on that, and
Colin Anderson.
yeah, and even he didn't really.
You just know. Yeah. Well, especially by the way, if he's in character as the Joker, you definitely don't want to be.
Yeah, but so anyway,
in.
there's those actors that
Yeah.
are sort of like that, and then there's actors that are your friend and can be very helpful, and you know it more than anybody on ER. That you need their help on scenes, especially with Steadicam, and
Yeah.
and you say, what can you do to how can I help you?
Yeah.
They'll say to you, or
Yeah, that was a special place because they all understood how hard what we
Right.
were doing was, and it's actually funny because I was on that for 3 years, and when I got off of it, I think is when I realized how much they would do for me in the sense of, they'd land and realize that the guest star in the foreground was blocking them, and they'd just lean over and find the lens. And when it didn't happen and I got out there, I was like, why doesn't this work as well? And then it's like, oh, these guys have been helping me all these years,
Right.
and I haven't even
They've been
known
making
it.
me look
I
good
thought I
all
was
these
doing
years.
such a great job, and it's like, no, they're
Right.
finding me every time.
Right.
But so have you been in situations with method beyond that one with method actors where, I mean, do you go through the director? Do you go through the
for
DP,
sure.
or and
Yeah.
you just basically say, look, I don't think me talking to them is the right way to do it. How do you want to fix this problem? Or
Yeah. I mean, the other way to do it is to say, listen, this isn't working. How do you think we can make this work? If you make them part of the decision-making process
Yeah.
rather than telling them what to do,
no question.
knowing the answer yourself, but you don't say it.
Yeah.
You hope they say it, and
Yeah.
that's sort of the psychological way to.
Yeah, and
get
on
it
that
done.
note, I mean, usually what I'll do is sort of, I can't seem to make this. You make it about like I just can't figure this out, and
Yeah.
you give them the opportunity to figure it out.
Exactly.
Like you said, you sort of have an idea, hopefully, of where it needs to go, and you're just trying to sort of coax it there.
Yeah.
What about when you're on? Do you work a lot with the AD? Are you involved with the AD as far as like how many shots this is?
Oh, absolutely.
How?
Absolutely.
What's
I think
that like?
I'm the partner with the AD, and
Yeah.
if they're smart or good, they know that. Once in a while I get an AD who feels like I'm, tells me to shut up. I don't need your help, but
That's not smart.
absolutely not.
It's too big of a job.
And that's pretty rare, but it's happened.
Yeah. No,
And
I've
they're
been there,
threatened.
too.
I don't know what their insecurity is.
There's
or-
a weird insecurity there
Yeah.
with some people.
But for sure, I'm looking ahead to the next shot all the time, and you work with John Lindley. There's nobody I know more attuned to looking ahead than
Yeah.
him. But if I'm doing shots in this direction, I'm telling the AD, listen, we should get the guys moving those
2 shots
things
ahead or whatever, right?
That behind me because we're going
Yeah.
there next. And yeah, I mean, no one wants to get through the day faster than
Yeah.
I do. And if
That
I
helps.
can
Yeah.
help it, we're driving the train often, and
True. Yeah. Yeah, but I find that, I mean, I think I do that more often than not. And one of the other things I'll usually do is after the rehearsal, when there's a moment, I'll powwow with them and go, all right, I don't know, what do you see? I see 3 shots here and an insert. What do you and we'll sort of, and then one of us will try to do reconnaissance to find out if that's accurate or what it is.
do you do that without talking to the director, or?
Well, it's a good question of it's yeah. I mean, sometimes yes and sometimes no. It's based on either you'll go, this is what I heard, so this is, or you'll say, I just think that this is what we owe, and then give them that piece of information, and then they'll sort of go, hey, how many do we owe here? So you're kind of like, it's this big circle of trying to figure out all the information ahead of time. I find that often I play that game with the ADs that I like anyway, and I say play that game meaning you're not exactly sure, but you haven't gotten all the information, but you're trying to sort of see what you're expecting down the pike. You know what I mean? Now, what about so you're working with the AD with that? What about what do you do during rehearsals as the operator?
Well, it depends on the show. Sometimes they literally kick you out. I fight to get in.
You try to get in on every
for
rehearsal
sure.
as early as possible.
Yeah.
And are you in there with a viewfinder? Or are you in there just looking, or what do you try to do? Again, depending on the show, of course.
I've been doing this long enough that I don't feel like I need a viewfinder.
Yeah.
I know what
Generally, you're looking at.
I know how to cover a scene. I know what a
Yeah.
a wide shot and a medium, and
Yep.
at least for myself, I know how I would cover a scene.
Sure.
It's not always the same, but
Yeah.
it's certainly valuable with a viewfinder to show the director or the DP exactly what you're thinking and
Yep.
and where the lights can go and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's it's often not up to us
No,
as
it's
operators.
more than often, not up to us.
Yeah,
But do you then while the rehearsal's going on, do you sort of think like, okay, this is how I would do it, just so you have something in your back pocket, and then you
for sure.
and then you basically listen to what they have to do and go from there, or like when do you pitch those ideas without being in the way? Because there's a way to pitch it without disrupting the apple cart, right?
I generally pitch when it looks like it's just going to get us into trouble, with
When what the path you're on is going to
Yeah.
get you into trouble. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Unless I have some amazing
yeah.
shot
Well,
idea.
it does happen though, right? There's times where you see something that nobody
once
else
it
saw.
happened,
Yeah. I know. I wonder whether you do this. I know I do this. If I'm in a rehearsal and the DP is going, or they're sort of, we're going to be mastering over here, and it's like, okay, and you sort of know what it is. If I see something, I'll sort of go and stand in that position. Like I'll sit in the back seat of the car or whatever, and it's sort of my quiet way of going, hey, there's a reason I'm over here. Do you do that?
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I often find, like, where I first go and stand, it feels like the right place.
Just where you happen
watch
to land, you mean?
Yeah. It's
You-
like
you-
instinctively I sort of wind up in the
You think because
right
you've been,
spot. Now, it may not be the right spot considering the lighting.
No, that's a whole nother thing.
But it sure looked good from right here. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, no, I've had that with John before. I'm like, I think it's really good over here. And he's like, yeah, but how would I light that? And I'm like, I'm not sure. That's not my problem. I just know
Yeah.
it looks really good over here.
I'm just telling you.
And then usually I lose, and that's the end of that. But you think that's just because of what you've sort of has seeped into you over the years, that you have an instinctive idea of where the
Yeah,
camera
that or Rashomoni's story can be told from many different
Sure.
angles. And
Yeah, there's no right angle per se.
no right angle for the story.
Although we'd all like to think that ours is the right angle.
Right.
Of course. What about working with the dolly group? When you go in and you're working with the dolly group who you've never worked with before, is there something? Is there a way that you sort of try to figure out what do they know and what don't they know and where their strengths are?
Well, that becomes apparent pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. Just as soon as you do the first shot.
Yeah, just in the communication, whether they want to, how they want to put floor down right away or not.
Yeah.
There's strong guys. Do you know Easy? Have you worked with him?
I don't think so.
He's like, get out of my way. I'm putting the stuff down here, and this is where
Yeah.
There's
This is
guys
what's
like that, and
Yeah.
and there's guys that just want it. They just want to. They want you to give them marks, and that's it. So
Yeah. Oh, you're saying I want to run this completely myself because I know how it works versus just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
right.
Yeah. You prefer one over the other?
Yeah, I think I like the stronger guy who has his own ideas.
Has an opinion? Yeah.
I want someone with an opinion, and I can overrule it or not. And usually they're right.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times what I'll do when we're lining up a shot is I'll obviously show where lens has to be and this and that and the other, and then I'll sort of shut up because I sort of figure I don't know where track versus planks versus whatever are. And
Yeah,
I don't always
I
know
don't
the
care what
distance,
that's.
and I sort of figure they know that better. But also there's part of me that goes in my mind. I'll go, this should be track, but then I'll see whether they do that because then I know whether we're on the same wavelength or not, right? Or whether we're doing totally different things or not. And do you do the same thing when you're setting up crane shots? I mean, do you sort of let them figure out where the base needs to be, or
No,
are you more
I try and be specific because you'll get screwed otherwise, right?
if the base is in the wrong
Yeah.
place? Yeah.
I try and eliminate backpan as much as I can, and
Yep.
and the good guys know that too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
My favorite is always like when you get, if you're day playing on a show and they're like, well, don't they have backpan compensation on the head? And it's like, look, they might, and it might work, but let's not. let's try to work around that.
I don't want to hear that.
Some better way.
Right. Yeah, cranes especially, I'm pretty specific about.
Now, do you work on a lot of shows now where you're a camera and there's a B camera operator, where there's two cameras? The
Oh,
whole
for
time?
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I work on shows where there's 3 cameras.
Yeah, sure, of
right?
course.
And that's another thought. When I'm setting up a camera, I'm generally thinking about the other cameras as well.
And so to that point, so as the A camera operator, you're thinking about the other camera operator. But do you expect them to be sort of finding something themselves with you in mind and then run it by you, or do you let them be their own unit?
Depends.
Sort of?
It depends who the personnel is, right?
Yeah.
Because if there's experienced people, then I'm happy to let them find things because I know they're going to find shots that are useful. If they're less experienced, they wind up shooting something way off axis that you wonder if they're ever going to use.
Causes everybody a problem.
And
Yeah.
I'm interested in getting real coverage and getting out of there. You
Yeah.
know, that's the usefulness.
So then as the A camera operator, you sort of going into that rehearsal going, okay, I'm going to be over here, and I bet B camera could be over there, and then you sort of give them the nod of like, go over there and find something
Sure.
to pitch.
Absolutely.
And as the B camera operator, do you when you do B camera,
Yeah.
do you go in and pitch stuff, or do you wait for like what's the
Yeah, I'll pitch it to either the DP or the director or the other. Yeah, I mean, it's a team effort, right? So
Sure.
you gotta be mindful where the lighting's coming from, right? You don't want to be on the flat side. That's the first job of the B camera.
Yep.
You got to be thinking about the coverage and about the cuts, and if you can get a tighter angle, that's going to help tell the story, and that's really what we're doing is telling the story, right? So
absolutely. Yeah. So were you thinking about the edit a lot?
all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, you sort
First,
of
I'm thinking about the story, right?
Sure.
I'm reading the script, and I'm thinking, what are we really trying to say in this scene?
Yeah.
Just like the actors are, and then I'm thinking, how can we tell that story with the camera? And then, the DP's doing most of this too, unless they're just doing lighting, which we encounter a lot these days.
Yep.
And more often than not, in the television world especially, you're encountering directors that are just back at the monitors. You don't hear a peep from them, and and they're just like, great, set up some shots, and
Yeah.
So
My favorite is always when someone comes in and they go, "Why are we doing this?"
yeah,
I'm like, "This is your show. I thought this is what you wanted."
that's great. And then they go tighter, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm trying to tell the story, and then you try and encourage the other cameras to get certain
To do
lines
the
that
same.
you can't quite get, or
But then as you're going, you're sort of cutting in your head, thinking, "Okay, we still need that one piece that we didn't get
Yeah.
here, or whatever."
yeah. And, look, if it's a good director, you're going to hear that from them. And,
Hopefully, yeah.
And you have to be mindful of sound too. That you can't get so tight that they can't get a mic in there. And
So, you keep that in mind as far as like wide and tight on A and B.
I
and
do.
what
You
sound
got to
is, yeah.
suss out the sound department and early on to see if they're going to let you do it.
Yep.
And, these days they're much more forgiving than they used to be.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
Right.
But I always feel like, I don't know, right off the bat I try to sort of like let sound know, look, I'm thinking about you on some level, because I think that they're sort of the ugly stepchild sometimes.
Right.
And there's really only one of them on set, so they're sort of like out there on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm mindful of them for sure. And
Yeah.
and there's certain directors now that will shoot wide shots, sort of static wide shots,
Yep.
and then let the booms come into those shots because they can replace they can paint them out.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
Fincher's famous for that, right?
Yeah. I remember the first time we did that. I don't remember what it was on, and I was sort of like, it was a static shot, and I remember thinking, they let you paint these out, and someone said, no, it's not a paint, it's just a wipe, because they're just going to cut out the top of the frame and put it in on a wipe from the thing. And all of a sudden it hit me, and I was like, oh, that makes unbelievable sense. We used to because we do that all the time on Ozark, and we used to joke that at a certain point, because the frames were all so static, the mic was almost always in. I used to joke that at some point you'd have two people talking, and our boom operator, Jared, would just sit in the middle and point at both of them, and you'd just cut out the middle and put something else in there.
Right.
And it wasn't too far from it, because the mic was always in there. Have you had a situation, I know this is going to shock you, where the director and the DP don't see eye to eye and you're caught in the middle?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What do you do?
You play both sides, right?
But
And you're the negotiator, right?
But do you go back and forth between them, or do you bring everybody together to go, look?
No, you go back and forth.
You go back and forth,
Yeah.
and then invariably, if you have to choose one over the other, what do? Do you go with the DP because that's who hired you? You go with the director because it's there. Yeah, and it's survival, right? I mean, the hope is that one of them realizes what's going on and doesn't put you in the middle. But it's not a fun situation.
The worst is when the DP in the shot tells you, all right, don't shoot that way, and then the director tells you to shoot that way.
To shoot that way, yeah.
So then now you're stuck, and then in that point I'll go over and say, Joe meet John. You
Yeah,
know, and
someone's got to give.
you guys talk because
Yeah.
I can't please both of you.
Yeah, so that's what I was wondering. So at a certain point, you just go, look, someone's going to make a decision,
Someone make
and
up
it's
my
not going to
mind.
be me. Let's just be very clear about it.
Right.
But yeah,
But
those-
I've had one or two situations where they won't talk to each other, and I just try and make the best of it and keep.
I had a situation where the director was standing to the right of me and the DP was standing to the left of me, and the director was saying, "Dave, please tell the director of photography that blah, blah, blah." And I remember thinking, this cannot be my job. And I just went, so da-da-da, and the DP, was gracious enough not to go, I heard, to make it even worse, and listened. And I was like, okay, great. And I remember walking away going, how is it possible that these people are getting paid tremendous amounts of money to act like this? But that's the way it worked.
Look,
And
it happens on a higher level than
It
us.
does.
I did a feature once where the director wouldn't talk to the producers, and they had a whole separate video village for the producers and him. And I remember one day coming to set, and they had backed up the two monitors against each other so that the director was facing the producers. I went to the VTR guy. I said, "What are you, stupid? You gotta separate them. They'll kill each other." But the director was fond of just shooting master shots and not shooting coverage.
So the producers didn't feel they were getting a movie, basically.
Yeah, and they would come to me and go, "Don't you think we need a close-up of Jennifer Garner?" And I go, "Yeah, that would be great." And they go, "Well, can you tell him that we need that?" And I go, "No, that's not my
Oh my gosh.
job. That's your job." And
Yeah.
you know,
That's why you're getting paid a fair amount of money. You have to deal with these things. I don't have to deal with these
would
things.
storm away, you
Yeah.
know. But and the DP was the same. He's like, "No, I'm not going to tell him."
That's unbelievable. Well, how'd the movie come out?
It wasn't very good.
Okay, well, there you go.
You know?
Lesson learned, I
Yeah.
guess.
So
right?
yeah, there's a case where you knew it wasn't going to be any good.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. God. What do you prefer Steadicam over conventional? Conventional over Steadicam? You have a preference?
No, I mean, if I'm tired at the end of a long day, obviously.
That goes without saying. Yeah. Yeah.
There's something great about walking around with that camera strapped to you where you're figuring it all out yourself. You're making those moves and decisions, and you don't have to rely on somebody behind you.
You don't have to translate anything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's more work, that's for sure.
It's harder on your body, but it's very creative and
Yeah.
and it's quick, it's quick and dirty sometimes, and it's pretty great that way.
Yeah, no question. How many years you been doing Steadicam now? You want to say that?
25 only.
Yeah. You say, but you
I don't
still.
think as long as you. How about you?
I've been doing it 32 or something.
Yeah, and you're still tall. That's
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm not as tall as I used to be. You should have seen me when I was younger.
Yeah.
Do you do anything to keep on being able? I mean, like you work out, you do.
Yeah,
Pilates,
every day
you-
I'm at the gym.
I mean, just like strength training, or
Yeah, cardio and
Yeah.
back exercises.
Because
and
especially my
leg
big fear
presses
is
and-
right now being at not having. I don't know when the last time you had a Steadicam on, but not having a Steadicam on for what 5-6 months.
Yeah, I have it set up in the garage, and I look at it
You're one step.
every day.
So I will. My cases are in the garage,
Well,
and I look at them
that's
almost every
as
day.
good.
Now, between the two of us, we're still doing the same amount of Steadicam work. But
I think about putting it on.
You're a little closer.
I'm waiting for the call.
Yeah.
Like you've got a job in a month,
and then you sweat and you go, "Oh, I'm going
to
to
strap it
Yeah,
in.
yeah. The thing that I do is I go, well, I could set it up in the garage, but then if there was an earthquake, I better keep it in the cases. But it is an issue, right? After a while.
Yeah, you have to stay
Yeah.
in shape, right? I don't know how you can just step out without.
Well, and one of the
doing it.
problems is, like you said, going to the gym, Pilates, doing whatever. It all helps, but it's not the same as having it on your body. It's just a different.
It's a different set of muscles,
It's
right?
a different set of muscles.
Those muscles, as Garrett used to call it.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, after a couple of days, you're back at it. But I remember
That's the hope.
A camera assistant telling me, yeah, we brought this guy in, and he was doing a shot either in a jail cell or something, and the director said he was listening on the headphones, going, "What the hell is that noise?" And it was like the guy's leg was just like
shaking and hitting.
Shaking and hitting.
Geez.
His foot was tapping on the ground because he was trying to hold a
Oh my
a
gosh, he's
shot,
holding,
and he was
holding
so
a
out of
lock off
shape.
or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not good.
I've never been in that. I would never put myself in that
Yeah,
spot.
yeah, yeah.
When I first got the rig,
Yeah.
I took that CP course.
Yeah.
I bought a rig.
For people who don't know, Cinema Products was the company that I guess first made the Steady. They made the first Steadicams actually for
Garrett Brown was
20-some years.
Went
or
into
something
partnership
like that.
with
Yeah.
them, I think, right?
Now the patent is owned by Tiffin, or the patent or the rights to it, or
yeah,
whatever.
I'm sure that patent's long expired.
not
by
patent,
now,
I guess,
right?
but that's who makes it now. But yeah.
And they did a little sort of sales presentation, and the whole point was to get you to buy a rig.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think. Anyway, I bought a rig. I ran around my backyard for a year before I would take it to a movie set. And,
That's probably. I think I might have done even longer. Although my main thing was because I didn't know anybody, so I didn't know how to get on a movie
my
set.
problem was I knew people, and
Yeah.
I wasn't going to
Well, they had expectations of you by then
exactly.
because you were
I wasn't
actually
going to
an
show up on
operator.
a real set with.
Yeah.
with that. I guess I could have gone out in student films,
Sure.
So, and then in my case, I wound up going on my first job was on a feature called Mystery Men. I happen to know the director. That's how I.
Mystery Men, it was like these weird.
Yeah, Bill
superheroes.
Macy and Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah,
rest in
yeah,
peace,
yeah,
and
yeah. I remember that.
Janine Garofalo.
Janine
and Ben,
Garofalo, yeah, and she had like a bowling ball.
Yeah,
she had like
she
a
had
magic bowling ball or something.
Exactly.
Like that. Yeah.
That shot is still on my reel. It's the coolest shot.
What shot?
She takes the ball and it floats. It
Yeah,
it's a
she
magic
can like
ball.
throw it in.
Yeah, and it
destroy
ping
something or
ponged
whatever.
around
Yeah,
the backyard
yeah.
of this house and then back into her bag.
Okay.
So I had to shoot the plate essentially of the ball zooming around
Like
the
the ball
backyard.
POV or something.
Yeah,
sort
so
of, yeah.
I'm in low mode, running around the backyard, and then the ball goes up a kid's slide, zoop, up in the air.
I vaguely remember
flips
this,
around,
yeah,
and then zoop, down the slide, zoop, back into her bag. So,
Oh yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah.
I think there was a cut in there. Anyway, we go up the slide, and they built me a ramp parallel to the
So
the
you
slide.
can sort of hanging off the slide.
Hanging off the
and-
slide,
yeah.
low mode.
Yep.
And now I'm on the top of the slide, running down. Take one, perfect. Take two, the rig got out in front of me. I hit the bottom and just went down like a
Oh no.
boom, flat on my face.
Oh.
I'm on the ground like a turtle on its,
Oh,
on its
that's
back.
that's the worst.
The video tap tore off the camera.
Oh my gosh.
Steve Burham was the DP.
Steve Burham. Okay.
Big
Sure.
time
Yeah.
DP, And by the way, I walked in the truck. This is my first day on the thing, and all my shiny new cases, and the camera assistant looked at me, looked at my cases, and kind of said, he's not going to like anything you do, man. Something like that.
Really?
He goes, he's used to Larry McConkey.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to say Steve Byrne works with Larry
Yeah.
McConkey. Oh,
so
my
I said,
gosh.
great, thanks for the vote of confidence,
By the way, there's something to be learned in that, showing up with all the brand new cases.
Oh, yeah, you want to scuff
Yes,
those bad
take
boys up.
him out and drag him behind the car for a
Yep,
while.
Throw some stickers on them.
Find some stickers on the internet from like Indonesia and like Bali and Prague and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my first words of advice. So anyway, I fell on my first job.
Oh. that was your first Steadicam job.
Yep.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I was pretty discouraged driving home, but I got the shot.
Yeah.
And I have not fallen since. I'm
Knock on wood. Anybody who's fallen, and if you haven't been doing this enough, you haven't. Or if you haven't fallen, you haven't been doing this enough. Although you got it out of the way early.
Yeah,
thankfully.
I got it out of the way.
It is one of those things that I don't know if you felt this way, but I've fallen twice, and there's that first moment of like, okay, did I break it? Am I alive? Did I break anything? And then you sort of look at the gear and you're like, how's the gear? And then it's just shame. It's just, I can't believe that everybody just watched me. I'm supposed to be the expert with this, and the first time I did it, I was backing up at Van Nuys Airport, I think, but like where the Piper Cub small personal planes are.
Mm-hmm.
And we rehearsed it, and we did the first shot, and in between the first shot and the second shot, someone had chained down a plane, and nobody knew about it, and so it took the dolly grip down and took me down.
Yeah.
And thankfully, somehow I remember I grabbed the rig and I kept it in front of me. And then I sort of like slowly rolled over to the side, so we were all good. But the second time, I'll never forget this, I was in New Mexico. And this girl was supposed to come running out of a house to a car, and I was supposed to back up in front of her. And, I went and I made sure there was nothing, no problems with this, talked to the group, we're good. She's a brand new actress. So I pulled her back. It was fine, there was nothing. Pulled her back the second time, it's fine. Go to pull her back the third time, and she comes out the door, and she's running twice as fast as she. And so I immediately realized something has changed, and I abort, and I pull off to the right. And she turns and she just keeps on following me. At which point, I pull off to the right thinking we're going to slow down. And she's coming right at me, so I'm trying to get out of her way. Dolly grip goes down. I go down on the dolly grip. Steadicam comes down, and I just barely get it to the side. It shears off the bottom of the Steadicam. And I think she stumbled, and she sort of went to the side. And I'm lying there, and the director, who I was not a fan of, came over, and he looks down, and he goes, "Why did you fall?" And I'm thinking, that's not the first question you should be asking.
Gravity?
And so, I got up and what the hell happened? He goes, "Well, I mean, you didn't stay in front of her." I said, "Well, I didn't stay in front of her because she's going 3 times as fast." He goes, "Well, I had asked her to do that."
Oh,
I said, "But you didn't tell me that."
Yeah,
and he goes,
right.
"Well, yeah, you just have to stay in front of him." And I remember the dolly grip just literally putting his hand on me and moving me out of the way because he knew where this was going, and it was a good thing because I was just astonished. And what had happened with her was she was a new actress. She really hadn't done much anymore, and she just assumed that her job was to follow me because I knew what I was doing, right? Yeah. So anyway, that's my
communication.
There's no question about it,
lost art, right?
especially with anything like that where there's the potential for some sort of something going really wrong.
Yeah, which we should probably have like a little conference before doing shots, I guess.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, normally I do on anything. I don't know why we didn't on that, or if maybe I assumed some things that I didn't. But I never assumed that the director would tell her to go 3 times as fast without telling me, and I should have assumed that. But that's on me. Yeah. Such is life. Everybody was fine, and the rigs can be rebuilt, so that's okay.
To answer your earlier question about what do you prefer, Steadicam or this and that, what I don't prefer is to use a Steadicam when there's no need to use that, or you take 3 steps, stand there for 5-10 minutes.
Right tool for the job.
That's what drives me crazy.
I totally agree. So. Yeah, and it's not for me. It's not even that it's like, why am I expending this energy? It's just that it's just not as good as doing it the right way.
Right.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Having nothing to do with this, although tangentially, you've been involved with the union for a long time. Yeah.
Yes.
Local 600.
Oh, 600. That
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been a board member?
I've been in the union for 35 years.
Yeah.
Been a board member for maybe 10 years.
And for anybody who doesn't know, I'm also a board member, but it's part of the governance, I guess you'd say, of the union, and we get together and sort of determine the rules and determine what needs to happen in the Constitution and bylaws and all that stuff. Can you talk about that a little bit? Is it something that's satisfying? Is it something that
it's something that used to be more satisfying than it, than it
that
is.
may just be the way the world is going. But
yeah, I mean you've been there.
You think it's important as a union member to be involved?
Yes, I think. Look, I think it's important to be a union member. I think as far as our safety and our working conditions, those are the things I support more than anything.
Yeah.
And without the union, I don't think we'd have those things. And I'm not talking about the money. That's a whole other thing, and that's, to me, not as important as those things I mentioned.
Well, when something is not going well on set, safety-wise or whatever, there's somewhere to go, as opposed to on a non-union set.
Absolutely.
You're on your own. Yeah.
Right. So you've got someone to call. You've got someone to back you up.
Have you ever been in a situation on set, and you don't have to say where or what, where you've had to call the union because of a safety violation?
Yes.
And has it been successful?
Yes.
Yeah. I've been there too. And that's what, the hope is that you never have to. but the beauty is that it's there.
Right.
Yeah. And that said, I think I'm probably in the agreement with you. I haven't been on the board as long as you have. I think I've been on the board. Well, maybe I have actually. Well, 7 or 8 years or something like that. And it does get frustrating, but it's sort of like, it's one of those things that I don't know about you, but I look at it and I go, well, someone has to do it, right? And
yeah, look, it's a
you all have to take
volunteer
your
job,
turn.
and sometimes I'm happy to do it, and sometimes it's frustrating because of the agenda for some of the people that are in there. And look, the reasons I stated, the safety and health and working conditions, those are the important things to me about being in the union, and wages. Nowadays, there seems to be other things that people want the union to be, social issues, and I won't even get into it, but that to me is beyond the basic reason for the union being there, and beyond the reason I joined in the first place. So,
I think,
and it's clouded the function of the local and made it more.
I think there are some
difficult.
people who want it to be everything to everyone, sort of, and that's not just the union. That's all sorts of things. So, I agree with you. But I think being involved is important, and it's something to pass on to younger people, because the thing is, you do get a lot out of the union, even if you don't realize it. Look, when you retire and you have a pension, you'll realize there was this thing that you never even thought about, and you should thank the union for that.
And healthcare too.
Yeah, and health benefits and all those things.
A big factor.
And it's not perfect by any means, no, but you try to make it better is the key, which is what I learned from people like you and like John. As someone who started in film and now shoots in digital, do you think that the transition from film to digital has fundamentally changed the way that we do our job?
Well, a couple things. We don't cut the camera anymore, so it's made that.
Is that good, or is that bad?
That's bad. I find it harder, right? When we don't, obviously a Steadicam, you don't get those breaks every 4 minutes, which used to be a good thing, I think. And the discipline has gone, right? When you turn that camera on and film is rolling through, it costs money. Now it's just keep rolling.
Who cares, right?
It's not as dire. It's not as costly. It's not as urgent.
I think for me, the way I always think about it is, it used to be that when you rolled the camera and you heard the film, like something important was happening.
Yeah.
And now it's just. Yeah, just keep it going. It's no problem. And so it's sort of lost some of the. It's sort of, I don't know if it's the right word, but it's lost some
intensity,
of the
right?
Yeah, and the gravitas of and rehearsal was rehearsal, but shooting was like actually, it was different.
Right.
And now it's
you actually rehearsed back then. Now
it's let's shoot the
don't.
rehearsal.
And you know what? I'm happy not to rehearse anymore.
Sometimes
I'm
definitely.
ready to just go and shoot and see how that works out. Tougher on the assistants.
Yep. Although they have more help than they used to, but still tougher, just because they've got no
they don't know where people are going to go.
No depth of field and whatever.
Right.
I honestly look at some of the work the assistants I have do, and I don't know how they do what they do. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's a whole different methodology than what I used to do.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could do it this way. I guess you get used to everything, but.
It's definitely a different skill set than it used to be.
Yeah, I never had a pen of tape. I never had any of that stuff. I thought I was pretty good at it, but I learned how to judge distance, and I was next to the camera. They worked for me. They do it the way they do it, and I'm amazed how they do it. It's great, and it frees me up to shoot whatever I want, which I like. In the old days, I would have to say, I'm going to that thing over there, be ready for it, and that was the great thing about having somebody sit next to you, is you could communicate those thoughts. Now they react very well to whatever you do, and that's a fantastic thing. What I don't miss is the flickering eyepiece, I can tell you that.
Oh, really? I sort of miss the flickering eyepiece. I mean, granted, you can see more in the eyepieces now, there's no question.
I've shot film not too long ago, and you stick your head in there and go, oh, shit, I
think the reason I
and
like the flickering eyepiece, because it goes back to that thing of it just felt more important, and it seemed like filmmaking. But I hear you. I mean, you can't see as much. There's no question about it.
Yeah, I mean, especially at night. And I did a film where because the DP wanted to see more with the tap, they changed the prism out to, it's usually like 70-30,
Yeah,
I think.
so there
They
was even
changed it
less
to
light going to the
80-20,
eyepiece
less
now.
to the operator. I'm like, holy crap.
No, because the operator doesn't need to see what's
Yeah,
going on.
you're shooting at night, and, I can't see anything.
Oh, my God.
So-
It's crazy that anything actually gets done. Yeah. Well, Doc, thank you. This has really been fantastic. I want to ask you in closing something I ask everybody, which is someone getting in the business now, maybe an operator moving up now, or Doc Karman now talking to Doc Karman 25 years ago. What do you suggest what advice would you give to people on how to succeed in this business?
As an operator or as anything? Well, I would say go for the job that you really want. That's my real advice. If you want to be a director, just start directing little things and or write something and go for that, because that's the thing. If you want to be a DP, start shooting things. Working your way up through the system is a hard thing these days, and I think it's not as easy as it looks. It's harder than it ever was, I think. And the way cameras are now, I think it's easier to shoot than it ever has been. There's 14 stops of latitude, and not to say that it's easy, but it's a little bit easier than it used to be, and I think if that's your goal, go for it. And people believe what you tell them. If you say you're this, they tend to look at you that way. And my father had a friend who was a commercial cinematographer, and I went to talk to him when I was first starting, and his advice was don't do it. So,
Really?
And I would often, when I'm sitting there at 4 a.m. in the rain shooting something, I would think back to that conversation, thinking, why didn't I listen? But I'm glad I'm where I'm at. I've made a good living and had a lot of fun doing it. So.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We'll be back soon with another great episode. Don't forget to check us out on theop.io for all sorts of information on operating and storytelling. So thanks for listening and have a great day.